Oh crap!
Hey guys, I'm Prodigy from Airsoft Team Kilo 23. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Mechbox. Today we'll be continuing our upgrading of the G&G Combat Machine M4. Now with the system energy motor already installed, it can pull a pretty powerful spring, up to about an M140. So we'll be installing a Systema M120 spring. That should give it a pretty good FPS and rate of fire. Along with that, we'll be installing a Systema bearing spring guide, and I'll tell you everything that these things do, I'll show you the results, all that good stuff. Alright, before we install the Systema M120 spring and the Systema bearing spring guide, let's get the stock FPS of this gun. I'm using .25 gram rounds, which is probably what you'll want to use after you get this gun, give it a little bit more accuracy. Alright, so the gun's shooting about 300 to 320 feet per second with .25s. So with about .2s, you can imagine it's going to shoot somewhere around 340 to 350. It's good FPS for the stock gun. It's going to give you some pretty good accuracy, especially because this gun has a pretty good air seal once you put the little small spring in front of the hop-up, so the hop-up doesn't wiggle around. Now let's go install the Systema M120 spring and the Systema bearing spring guide and see what kind of FPS we can get out of this. Now, before opening up your gun, please remember two things. One, it will void the warranty. And two, if you're not an experienced tech, you should probably get a professional airsoft tech to do the work for you. Going inside an airsoft gun does require a good bit of skill and quite a bit of knowledge. So, guys, please don't mess up your airsoft guns if you don't know what you're doing. Alright, now we've got the gearbox opened up. You can see the stock M100 or so power spring and the stock metal spring guide. Now the spring guide has no bearings, and the spring is pretty good. It's going to get you about, like you saw earlier, about 340, 350 FPS with .2s, or about 300 to 320 with .25s. These do alright in a stock gun, but if you're an upgrader and you're on a budget, then these videos are for you, of course. Now let's take the Systema M120 spring out of the package here. Alright, now we have the Systema M120 spring out of the package. It's pretty stiff. It should get about 400 to 420 feet per second. It does have this little sheet rolled up in it. Talks about warnings and whatnot. Pretty basic stuff. And here's the Systema bearing spring guide out of the package. It does have a plastic shaft, but it's pretty light, pretty strong, and the bearings feel really good. Simply put the spring guide in the back. Make sure the coils, the tighter coils, are always in the back toward the spring guide. And it's always easier to install one of these when you have something to compress the spring and keep it held down. And there we go. It's closed. Now we just gotta flip it over and reinstall the screws, then we can reinstall the gearbox in the gun and check out what kind of FPS we're looking at. Now we have the Systema M120 spring and the Systema bearing spring guide installed. Let's see what kind of FPS we're getting. Alright, finally leveled out around 375, 370 around there. This is being chronoed with .25 gram rounds. So you can imagine with a .2 it's going to shoot upwards of 400 to 410 feet per second. It's kind of a rule of thumb that with every .05 grams of extra weight you put per each round, you're going to lose about 30 to 40 FPS. So you can just kind of give or take 30 or 40 feet per second between a .2 and a .25. I think that's pretty good. With an M120 spring, that's about what you're looking at. Although the rate of fire did decrease quite a bit with the 120 spring, that's nothing that can't be fixed with a higher voltage battery or something like that. Now stay tuned for the next episode, guys. We'll be installing the deep fire aluminum nozzle for the M16 and the ported cylinder 200 to 400 mil barrel. I'm Prodigy from Airsoft Team Kilo 23, signing off.